Lacrosse community. My name's Ryan Berns. I'm the president of the Lacrosse Leadership Institute. It's our mission to share stories of individuals that have been extremely successful with lacrosse, with the youth and other lacrosse lovers, so that we can all see how we can take the skills we learn from lacrosse and bring it to the real world. I'm so excited for our conversation today. Patrick runs POWLAX, which is absolutely amazing. If you haven't caught it on Instagram or online, you're definitely missing out. So make sure to check the link. We'll add either the hashtag or whatever it may be so you can follow him. But he's bringing IQ to anyone and everyone who's really to listen. And I'm just blown away by this. So Patrick, I'd love to pass things to you and allow you to share a little bit more with our community how you got involved with lacrosse and what you're up to.
Sure. So we'll start with, I guess, how I got involved in the sport. So I've got three older brothers, Nick, Chris, and Tim. And my brother Chris was in his freshman year of high school, and one of his friends started playing, and so invited him to play. And then once my brother started playing, it kind of trickled down through our family. So Nick is 6 years older than me. Chris is 9 years older than me. So they picked it up in high school, and my brother Chris and Nick both played in state championship games in Colorado. And so I remember going to those games and, being a fan in the stands with my dad. And then once we got into the game of lacrosse, we were originally like a soccer family. And that immediately kind of switched and, began just getting really heavy into lacrosse and, played all different kinds of sports. By the time I hit high school, I specialized in lacrosse, which, at this point I didn't have a good experience with football, but so, and that's kind of how I got into the sport. Played through high school, went to college in Maryland and played at Goucher College for a year, tore my ACL my second year, came back to Colorado. Never played the spring again, but played in the fall at CU for a year. And then while I was there, I started coaching with Boulder Valley and Icon Lacrosse, and just kept coaching from there. I played at Dick's. I learned to string sticks when I was 10. Started stringing sticks when I was 10. I say I'm still learning stuff. Like all the stuff people are putting out now is ridiculous. But so that's kind of how I got started. And then let's see. So while I was at Boulder, I wanted to do some training. So I created POWLAX stands for Pack of Wolves Lacrosse. And the logo that everyone sees is actually me doing a trick that was taken a picture of. Then my sister-in-law drew the picture, and then we added in the Colorado flag. So that kind of just happened naturally. And so let's see. In Boulder, I started a training thing. I worked at Dick's as I was the number one seller of lacrosse equipment when Dick's introduced lacrosse equipment. Strictly because I could string sticks and I was a pretty good salesman at that. And then once I left college, I worked as a youth corrections facility officer for a while. And then after 2 years of that, I coached there too, which is a pretty crazy story as well. So the youth corrections facility started a lacrosse program because of my brother Nick. He introduced it. Then my dad helped coach there too, and then I took it over when I was there. And then once that got to be a little bit too much, I ended up quitting working there so that I could do lacrosse full time. And, as I was younger, I would always do tricks and everything. But so I started by doing customized mesh and creating my own kind of wax mesh thing, inspired by Throne and ECD. And then it was interesting. So one day, everyone was kind of saying, get onto social media. And I created a Twitter account and everything. And that day I saw that 3D Lacrosse, so I didn't even really know who it was doing a clinic for their Denver shootout on the Friday evening. And so I just drove to Dick's Sporting Goods Park. And as I was taking notes, Jamie Monroe pulled up on a golf cart and invited me to help him coach at Mountain Vista and to coach with 3D. And then he gave me kind of like the masters in lacrosse, which it's interesting to hear him discuss things now because I can see where his tinkering like 8 years ago fits into his completed theories now. It's way cool. But so I owe my expertise level in coaching to him. And then after coaching with him, Became a high school head coach. And then now I'm a high school assistant coach. And within that time, I created a program called POWLAX Master Coach, which is all the videos on YouTube now. And originally those were supposed to be behind a paywall and didn't get much traction. I didn't have any marketing expertise or anything like that. And so listening to Gary Vee, he was like, give out your stuff for free. And no one was using the content. So then I just put it all out for free. And, it picked up steam. People are watching it all over the world now. And people now support me through my website, POWLAXmastercoach.com. And they basically, so let's see, I guess to finalize kind of what I'm doing now is when I was creating these videos, I would create these scripts. So I would speak and then I would take the video and audio and I would edit in, play diagrams that would move. And what I realized about after like 40 videos was I should be creating publishable content when I'm doing those PDFs instead of just writing down what everything was saying. And once I started doing that, basically all of my videos are free so that anyone anywhere can watch it. And if you want to install an offense, you can, what do you call it? If anyone wants to install an offense with their kids, they can just share the video and their kids can learn it. And then once they get to practice, they already kind of know what's going on if they watch the video, which you get those one or two that do. And then you kind of, I don't like the idea of shaming the kids who don't, but then when you ask questions of the kids who don't and they don't know, it's kind of its own thing. But so the free content allows anybody to watch it, which really helps. And then people can support for $5 a month. And once they support for $5 a month, they get access to download every PDF I've ever made. And so that's like 300 pages of PDFs. And it's not something where you get access to the PDFs. And then when you stop being a patron or you stop being a member, you get rid of it. When you become a member and you support, I'm hoping that you'll support the continuous building of the content. But if you just want to download it and then get rid of your subscription, you're more than welcome. The more people that can, if you can use my content to learn the game better so that you create a better experience for the players, that's the end goal. That's the point. And so, yeah, that's kind of just where we're at now. And now I'm working on creating a bunch of new videos. Actually, it's 10:14 now. So I'm premiering a video right now on YouTube on man down defenses, and it goes through every man down defense that I know. And it's a 2 hour and 5 minute video. And so it goes through 5-man rotation, 4-man rotation, boxing one, boxing string, house zone, Duke's hybrid man down, 2 men down, clearing man down, facing off man down. But so the key is, lay each brick as best you can so you don't have to go back to it. And so your foundation doesn't rot out. And yeah, but so, so now I got to find a new one, and I'm in a hospital right now because my daughter was just born. And so she was born yesterday morning. Super excited for that. And that's why I've got, the mask on, and I'm in a weird kind of location if you've ever seen my live stream. So I guess that's the, I didn't even mention any lacrosse tricks, but that was another huge part of what I do. I can do some pretty ridiculous lacrosse tricks with, the stick and a ball and all that. So, but yeah.
Patrick, oh my gosh, so much to break down with that in terms of just your story, getting involved and starting as a family affair. I think that's how so many of us got into it because of our siblings, and then it just grows and it continues to grow, and you continue to give and it grows, and you give and it grows, and you're at a point where I absolutely love the fact that you're following Gary Vee for starters, because that's awesome. I love just his content as well, and I think that's the idea. Just put it out there, your audience grows and you suck it up. But you're like you said, laying down a foundation where we can all start stacking and sending out content to our players. So it's so funny you say that, because we set up a group me for the travel team I coach on Sunday. I sent your slide video because someone asked a question about sliding during practice. I explained it, and he was still confused, and I didn't have the diagram. So I found it, I sent it to the whole guys. And we'll find out on Wednesday who watched or not.
Yeah.
But I appreciate all that you're up to, and I'm just blown away by this. One of my favorite questions to ask everyone is, what is your pinnacle lacrosse moment, or what are some of those pinnacles that you've had so far?
So there's so many. I'd say I got to at least do two. One of my biggest pinnacle moments was when I was probably 10 or 12, throwing in my front yard with my dad and my brothers. And at this point, they were in high school and they were playing and they'd been in the state championship games. And at this point in the development of Colorado, there weren't many people who'd played for a long, long time. And so my brother's athleticism, like Rabel too, right? He started playing in high school, and his athleticism brought him to be very good. And it just helped with it, obviously. But so I remember hearing my dad say, like, look at this guy, like he can throw lefty and he's like 10, right? When they had picked it up at 14. And just because I had, been around it for a little while and then just playing in the backyard and doing all the tricks, but just that encouragement of my family seeing that in me really helped to motivate me to just continue to do it. Like, and I remember doing tricks in the basement, and I'd finally land a trick, and then I'd run upstairs and ruin their TV experience because there was no DVR back then, right? And so they're watching like Law and Order or what was the big one? Buffy the Vampire Slayer, right? It was huge in my family back then. And then I'd like interrupt their whole experience to show them this trick, and I'd screw it up 4 or 5 times so they'd miss the whole end of the show. But they loved it, right? They valued seeing that in me, that excitement in me, more than they valued the TV show, which was just, my family I owe everything to them, right? And then I'd say the second one is the IMLCA convention in 2019. So when you create content, I can see my analytics, right? When I made the decision to put out the content because no one was seeing what I was doing, I was worried, in the back of my mind, like, is anyone going to like this, right? But so I had never been to a lacrosse convention before. I actually think I went to LaxCon one year, but that was back when I was just doing trick videos and selling mesh, right? But when I got to the IMLCA convention, which is the, I think, Intercollegiate Men's Lacrosse Coaching Association, and there's just all coaches, right? It's all coaches, it's all coaching things. And when people started to recognize me and thank me for the video content that I've made, it really hit me a lot harder. Like, and it was funny, I remember sitting with a coach at one of the dinners, and he's like, it's not like you say anything too groundbreaking. It's just another voice that I can give them so that we're better on doing it. It's like, that's awesome. That's exactly what it should be. But and here's another thing I do at any convention, right? I ask a question in every single session. And so I had people who were like, I knew that voice, right? I recognized your voice as you asked the question. But I felt that it was a very important thing that I ask a question even if I knew the answer, and I felt that the coach missed or skimmed over a point that should have been reinforced, right? I think that the act of being someone who people had acknowledged me for teaching them, and then asking a question, being the person to ask a question, helps to let everyone know that asking a question is a good thing. But so after experiencing all of that at the IMLCA convention, the big moment, everything was so fast there. The big moment was I got home and we were doing bath time with my wife and my son. And all of it just kind of hit me at once, right? That people in the world were kind of appreciating what I was doing. And it was just the idea of wholeheartedly putting everything you have into something and then finding that it was appreciated back, even though you didn't know at the start. And just like seeing my son, who was a new thing at the time, was just like, I just hope that I can instill that in him. It was just a whole big moment that was just, it kind of went full circle. But yeah, so I'd say that was one. And then another I'd say is a guy hit me up from Japan who wanted to use my videos to create Japanese videos. And so he tagged all of them in Japanese. And then this last January, I was at the challenge in the Adrenaline Challenge in California, and I'm hanging out with Isaac from Phantom Lacrosse and Tyler from what is it? It's Elevate Lacrosse, who makes the like goalie things and everything. And this kid sees me through the fence or no, he's like looking at Isaac's sticks. Isaac makes wooden sticks for Phantom Lacrosse that are custom. They're really sweet. But he's like, POWLAX? POWLAX? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. Like, how are you, man? And he's like, and he was from Japan. It was the Japanese team that came over, and he like recognized me, and he brought his whole team over, and I ended up doing tricks for this whole Japanese team. And the coach was like, keep going, like keep putting out cool stuff. And so I'd say that was another moment, because so to wrap this all full circle, there's this candy maker near us. And so every Sunday, my wife and I go to the farmer's market. And recently, we've been getting a couple things every week. Ginger beer is one. There's a Denver ginger beer company, and it's so ginger rich. I don't know, I love it. But I do it every weekend now. The other is a peanut brittle. And I'm having a discussion with this guy who makes this excellent peanut brittle. I'm like, man, on social media, you got to like show video of you make it. And he was worried because he's like, well, there's something that's proprietary in the way I make it that I don't want everyone to know about. And I think that fear is stopping so many people who feel they have this ultimate secret. And when you look at the people who are revolutionizing things, they just want to share everything, because the key is to recognize that regardless of how many people you give something to, it never detracts from what you have yourself, right? And I think that's such a valuable thing that, I don't know, I struggle with it still, right? Like, so obviously for running a lacrosse company where video is the main thing and you're teaching people, December, January, February, I see everything rise because people want the information, they want to support, they want to do it. But then once you hit June, July, August, everything trickles down. And I kind of understand that that's going to be how it is. And you can kind of get into your head about, oh, do I want to upcharge this? Do I want to do this? But my whole thing is accessibility, right? It's like, now that I've got a second child, I'm like, oh, I got to make sure I'm there to prepare. But without the giving first, none of it happens. And so, I don't know, that was a long-winded point, but I don't know. It's just, it's amazing to see people utilizing something that at one point I was debating whether I was going to do it,
I can totally understand how that can be a pinnacle for you as well. There's self-doubt in everything that we do, and I think one of the things that lacrosse does in sports as a whole, it gives you self-confidence. It lets you try things in an arena that isn't life or death, but then you get to utilize that as you move forward. So you have the confidence to follow a great coach and a leader in Gary and be able to put out content for free. And it's all gone full circle, and now you see it in other people who have that fear and they're scared and they may not have the coachability that you do. And I think coachability is a huge part of being successful. And now you're able to use that and you get the affirmation going to these different events. That is absolutely wonderful. Patrick, a big part of our conversation with the other people that we talk with is, how do you define leadership? And then how has lacrosse impacted your leadership, or how has it defined your life, if you will?
Oh, wow. So I'd say leadership for me is recognizing that it's your actions that have to be the defining feature in everything you do, right? So everything falls back on you. So another defining characteristic was, so I mentioned that I was a head coach and then I was an assistant coach, right? So what happened in between there was the team that I became my first head coach, and I was head coach for them for 4 years. We had a tough year. We played 4 of the top 6 teams in the state based on the end of the year to start our year. So we went 0-4. And so people started getting a little bit nitpicky because we played some very good teams to start our year. And at the end of the year, we were 7-7. If we win, we go to the playoffs. If we lose, we're out of the playoffs. We had a kid who was ineligible who dressed, and I should have been aware and let him know to undress. And he went on the field for 1 minute, 6 seconds. He was a defenseman, played against the ball, right? No one knew. And you see him in the film. He comes off the film. I yell at him. I'm like, how could you do that? And at that point, I probably should have stopped the game. It was like the very beginning of the second quarter, right? I should have stopped the game, gone to the other coach and been like, hey, let's restart this game because now it's not like he played. It doesn't matter at this point, right? So the next day, we're actually heading up to tell my grandmother that we were pregnant with, my first kid. And so this was like 2-3 years ago. But so I called the athletic director, let him know what happened. And basically, eventually, I got let go from that position for allowing that to happen. And in that moment of whether you're going to go with the integrity of what you do, because it's the full-on integrity of what that is, or you're going to let it slip. I've never, like my mom will tell you, I'm such a bad liar. Like, you can read right through me. And there's no way I can interact in those situations on an honest level if that's how it is. But so I think leadership is acknowledging and letting people know that you're willing to make the right decision regardless of any other thing. And, there's so many different ways that happens. And it's, you can go into the minutia of how to have a conversation, of how to do all of these things. But at the end of the day, it has to be something that you live yourself, right? And so that's not to say it's your idea, right? Like let's see, a couple books that have helped me. Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway was the reason I quit my job as a youth corrections facility officer and did lacrosse full time, not knowing any way of how, right? And then failing a mesh company, failing at my first try at making a club program, failing at my first couple videos, like they were awful, failing at my tricks until I got them. Like, I guess it's just, it's an interesting dilemma when you try and think about the minutia of being a leader versus just, you have to see it in yourself. You don't have to feel like a leader. You just have to know that when it comes time to make the decision that you have to make, that you feel that anxiety and just push through it and make it happen.
I think that's a huge thing, and a few things come up for me. Just do it, integrity, and that's the most important thing. And I think that's what other people can tell as well. It's you being your authentic self, and you have to have that integrity to be able to be authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick, I really appreciate you being on here. And I know we're getting close to the top of the time that we have together. How can we support you, and how can we help you with your vision moving forward? Can you also share what that vision is?
Okay, so my vision is to help. So the vision is coaches who don't know the game get frustrated by the fact that when they speak, the kids don't do what they tell them or what they're thinking that's going to happen, right? So all my content is based on one idea. If I can share with them the knowledge that will allow them to coach more efficiently and have the effect that they want to have on the kids, they will be better coaches, which will turn out players that enjoy the game. If the kids enjoy the game grows. If the kids don't enjoy the game doesn't grow. And so the sharing of my content is how everyone can help. I would say I'd really love for everyone to go check out POWLAXmastercoach.com. It's a brand new website I built that organizes all of my content. And because it organizes all my content in that way, what I used to do is I used to basically have a Patreon. And so there's still a bunch of people on Patreon as well. But now that I don't have to use a third party for the sources anymore. That's the best way. And so you can support by the lowest supporting is $5 a month. You get access to every PDF I've ever made, like I mentioned. And now we have, if you want your entire club team to have it and have, 8 coaches be a part of it, you can now do that as well. So there's a bunch of different things. You can get direct access to me as well. But so check out all the content. If you want to become a member to get the PDFs and access to me, you can do that as well. But mostly it's recognize what's out there as far as content. Like, just to do another quick pitch, is on POWLAX.com, there is a new to lacrosse section that goes over 2 videos. It's what makes a good men's stick, right? It's also women's sticks in a smaller segment. Women's sticks now are actually getting to be about as intricate as men's sticks, but it's about what lacrosse is at its core, which is not 10-on-10 men's lacrosse. It's a game that can be played 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, and its roots go back to the Native American heritage. But so I created a video that the first thing we talk about is the heritage, right? Because if you don't talk about that first, you're selling it's not a sport, it's, you know, it's more than that. And if you don't start with that, you're eliminating the real content of lacrosse. But so there's 2 videos there. There's the what is lacrosse and what's a great stick. And just by going onto the site, you can download the PDFs that go with those things for free. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to give me your email or anything. And really, it's just looking into all of the content that's there so that you can share it when the situation arises when you need to teach people about the sport.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, I'm going to make sure to put that link in the video and on YouTube, and make sure that everyone gets access to the page, because Patrick, you're up to some amazing things. I'm so glad that you took the time to talk with us, share your story with our community, because I know you're going to continue just shooting for the stars and producing so much great content that is going to grow the game. So thank you so much for being a part of this. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, man.